And now we're joined by number 67 on the Giants 100 list, former linebacker Brian Kelley. Brian, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's great being here, and it's such an honor to, even though I'm 67 and I'm actually behind a few kickers, which sort of pisses me off. I mean, how can a middle linebacker be behind two kickers? I just don't get that.
Well, I want to talk to you about the linebackers because you were a member of the Crunch Bunch, Giants lore, one of the greatest linebacking units there was. What made your group special?
Well, I think it was just a lot of thing of the unity between us, and the togetherness was just unbelievable. I mean, we did everything together. I mean, it just sort of came and it happened the same way on the field. We just did everything, and we protected each other and stuff. I knew when Brad Van Pelt was playing, the left side linebacker, and he was over the tight end, and I was the inside Mike. I knew that tight end was not going to come down on me and block me because Brad wouldn't let him, And you just had that faith in each other. And we had that faith with each other for, like 3 or 4 years. It was just phenomenal. It was like you walked out on the field and you knew that the opposing team was scared of you.
I love it.
As far as your linebackers, they knew that. Especially with when we got LT. What a great asset. Obviously, that's an understatement, but that he was at bringing him in, but it was just a great crew. Even afterwards, when we all retired and stuff, we went on vacation together still and stuff. That's just telling you what kind of bond we had between the four of us. It was just outstanding.
Well, even the Habitat for Humanity, you guys had actually built some huts and stuff for people.
We did that, and we also went down to Washington D.C. I'm trying to think of the hospital down there, the Walter Reed Hospital. We did a thing down there and went and saw all the vets and stuff like that, which was really, really touching, and just to do that for them and stuff. But Habitat for Humanity, we went to right outside, I think it's Pueblo, Mexico, and built homes for people that needed them and stuff. I mean, and that was after we retired and stuff. And it was no question. The minute they asked us, we were going. There was no doubt about it.
You guys were inseparable. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and we still are. I mean, me and LT are together all the time, and Harry, when we can, being golfers, me and LT, we play a lot together and stuff. So it's more of a with him. But Harry, he's not a golfer. He just putts.
I know. Think about this. And I'm thinking 14th round, right? Mm-hmm. NAIA school, Cal Lutheran, as I remember.
Exactly right.
Okay.
NAIA Division II.
Okay. And from that to not only a dozen years in the NFL, but also top 100 in Giants history. That is an incredible journey.
It was unbelievable journey. And it started out pretty slim because, in 1973 when I was drafted, Brad Van Pelt was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
As a linebacker. Well, he was the number 2. He was in second round, but he was our first pick that year and stuff.
Because we had traded the first one for Dallas for Randy White. They used Randy White in the pick. Yeah,
that's probably why we weren't winning last night.
I got you.
But anyway, so Brad was the number, and they had 5 good. We only had a 40-man roster back then.
Yeah. People
forget about that, and so they only kept 5 linebackers. They had 5 pretty good linebackers. They had Jimmy Files, Pat Hughes, Reed, a guy, Henry Reed, and so they had some good linebackers. And I was like,
Hornsby still there?
Ron Hornsby was still there, and I was the 14th pick. and I'm thinking, what are my chances of making the team coming from a Cal Lutheran and stuff? But I tell you, everything just seemed to fall the right way for me, and like I tell people when they're getting ready to take a shot in the pros and stuff, I said, you're going to get your shot. But when you get that shot, you better perform because it's not going to be a lot of shots. And I was very fortunate when I did get the opportunity, I was able to perform and do good. So,
I want to ask you, Brian, I want to give you a chance to talk about Brad Van Pelt. Obviously, he's not with us today. We'd love to be able to talk to him about the Crunch Bunch. For modern fans that maybe don't know what a great player he was and what made him special, what made Brad Van Pelt the special player that he was?
I tell you, what made him special was just he was one of the greatest athletes that ever played in the NFL, but people just don't realize that he was All-State, All-American football and baseball player in college and high school, and he also was an All-State basketball player. And he played basketball at Michigan State for a while. I mean, the guy was just an unbelievable athlete. I mean, here's a guy, 6'5", 245 pounds, playing safety. And people don't realize he was runner up to the Heisman his senior year, Brad Van Pelt. He was one of the greatest athletes ever to come out of college. I mean, he was just super, and he was just a great human being. I mean, he just concentrated on what he had to do and stuff. He was fabulous. I just loved playing with him. He was such a great, and it's hard because, his son's here, Bradley, and stuff, and I watched Bradley grow up and everything, and it just, I mean, I choke up every time I talk to Bradley because I miss him so much, Brad Van Pelt and stuff. He was, and the thing that really gets me, and I'm sure every person says this about somebody on their team, but why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame? 15 years in the league, 5 Pro Bowls.
In a row.
How can you not put this guy in a Pro Bowl? I mean, there's a lot of guys in there with a lot less, stats and stuff. So, I mean, but everybody can say that. I understand that, and I'm aware of that, and that's why, I tolerate it to a degree. But, I mean, he was just a great person to be with, and I missed him. I loved him to death.
The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New you moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
You played during a very, very difficult time in Giants history, but then in 1981, you guys cracked through and made it to the playoffs. How special was that for you? I tell people the overtime win in the mud in Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, when you guys beat a really good Falcons team, to me was the turning point and made me believe that you guys could do it.
Well, I tell you what, the turning point, what to me was started in, I think, was when Ray Perkins and George Young took over. That was the
79.
That was the turning point of the whole. I could see it as being with the 70s teams and seeing the difference what they were doing as far as disciplinary and just going after the right people. I mean, we had a lot of draft choices from in the 70s up to 78 and stuff like that just never panned out. And I don't mean to say anything bad about the guys that didn't, but they just never panned out. I just told you we didn't have the right system in place to win yet, and when Ray Perkins came in, it was like night and day. This guy, I mean, I give Purcell's credit, all the credit, but this man put us together and gave us discipline. I mean, we were talking about on the bus, George Martin and LT and I, about we played Pittsburgh on a preseason game, and I think it was 81 or so, and we ended up losing to them 13-7 in a preseason game. The next morning, we're out practicing at 8 a.m. and we got full go on the goal line between the first offense and the first defense.
Day after the game.
True story. And then the veterans got upset about it, and he heard about it. And he came in the next that night at the meeting. He said, "You know what? I heard all this rambling and stuff like that." And he said, "I tell you what, I'll play with 22 rookies. I don't care." Just like that, and we just went like that. We knew. It was a different world, It was, and him and George Young just changed the whole atmosphere of the whole club and changed us around to be winners.
Got anything else, Paul?
Well, I would tell you, Brian, the one thing that I always admired about you is that you were always incredibly smart, incredibly productive, and even
my wife might not agree with you, but go
ahead. But I mean, you were a weak side backer at the beginning of your career, and then you played inside.
I was weak side, and then when Bill Arnsberger came on board, he took me from outside, and I didn't have the speed really to be a weak side backer, because back then you basically were covering the running back one-on-one all the time. So when he came in, he transferred me to the middle linebacker, and that's when I really started to develop as a player and stuff. And then it was great because and then in 1981. Well, after that, when Carson came in, obviously I went back outside, Mm-hmm. And then in 1981, when LT came, they threw me back inside and stuff like that. So I'm the only guy who say, I changed positions as far as linebacker twice for 2 Hall of Famers, LT and Harry Carson. I mean, and a lot of guys can say that and still kept their job, still was a starter. You know?
Not a bad reason to move. No question about it. Brian, thank you so much. This was
Thanks
fantastic.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Great to see you, Brian. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
To kick off the 2024 season, Boss teamed up with the New York Giants to launch an iconic apparel collection. The Boss Times New York Giants collection unites football and fashion while reflecting what it truly means to be a boss. Like Paul Dottino here, very dashing. It is 100th season Boss Polo.
You know what I love about these? It is truly the dark navy/midnight blue that the Giants wore during the Y.A. Tittle years. And over the years, the blue kind of morphed a couple of times. But this reminds me of good old Y.A.
Arriving just in time for the start of the season, the distinctive attire from the latest Boss Times New York Giants expansion offers sports aficionados and true bosses, like Paul Dottino, the chance to show their team spirit in style. The collection features hoodies, crews, T-shirts, polos like these, joggers, and more. We've seen the sweatshirts as well. Guys, these items are awesome. Go check it out. Get yours today at nflshop.com/HugoBoss, HugoBoss.com, and Boss retail stores. # be your own boss. The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
All right, and now we are joined by Super Bowl champion George Martin. George, how are you? It's great to see you.
I'm doing great. It's good. Thank you guys for having me.
No, thanks for being here. What does it mean to you to be part of this Giants 100 celebration?
Where to begin? First of all, I'm honored that I'd be selected in such a very wonderful group. I mean, it's really tremendous for me, not only for me personally, but also for my lineage, my family, because it leaves a lasting legacy, number one. Secondly, the guys that I am here with are people who I bonded with, and for the most part, over our entire career. So we can look back with reverence to the things that we've accomplished collectively, and that is just wonderful because a lot of that stuff, you know, you don't think about it on an everyday basis. So to look back and see what we were like when we wore younger man's clothes and what we accomplished is really something very special.
You know, George, when you came to the Giants, you're drafted very, very low as a basketball player and become one of the most dominant pass rushers in franchise history. You had nearly 100 career sacks. They don't keep track of all that stuff because you and I were a little old at that time.
Exactly.
But could you have ever imagined that that's what this career would wind up being?
Not at all. Not at all. It was really a mixed blessing because you brought in the fact that, yes, I was a basketball player. I had a basketball player's mentality. I wasn't one of those guys that was going to mix it up and run over people, but I used my athleticism to my advantage, and I think that's how I made it as an 11th round draft choice. Who would have thought that I'd be the Rookie of the Year for the New York Giants back then? It was just a very welcome surprise. But over the years, I honed that skill and that ability, and I was able to just to mesh it with a solid career, both versus the run and the pass. And 14 years later, I'm here with a Super Bowl ring. So,
I wonder how much more it means to you to have seen the Giants during some dark years, come through those, and then get the Super Bowl. Not that the dark years are a benefit, but I think it makes you appreciate winning even more.
You hit the nail right on the head. As a matter of fact, we were talking about that earlier, some of the guys now, some of the greats who came along, and for whatever reason, the longevity wasn't there, or they saw the grass being green on another side of the fence and they left. And we were fortunate enough to stay the course. And boy, I tell you, it's like we had an investment over time that paid off tremendously with the victory in the Super Bowl. And when you look back and see not only the guys that you played with, but the coaches that Bill Parcells stands out as a number one. It's something that you will never forget, and you take that to your grave.
What makes the difference, besides the obvious thing, talent, right, about a group together that can do great things like you guys did later in your career versus maybe some of the teams that struggled early? What makes a team and group of guys together great?
That is the $64,000 question, and that's what coaches, struggle with throughout their entire career because it's the chemistry. How do you get the right combination of guys? How do you get that chemistry? And a lot of people have lost their careers from the coaching side trying to find that answer that question. And you have to be very intuitive, as Bill Parcells was, because he had the right amount of of ingredients. He had guys that were ferocious, guys that were absolutely, talented, and they're not always the same. And then guys who were like overseers to be able to make sure that whatever that chemistry what finally was, you don't tamper with it. You make sure that it gels, that it meshes together, and it pays off in the long run. And I think that's a learning process that a lot of coaches have to go through.
George, this weekend the Vikings are here to play the Giants. Your brother Doug played for the Vikings. You had a chance to go play with him after you retired from the Giants, but you are a lifetime Giant. You never put on another jersey or another helmet. How much does that mean to you?
I'll contrast it this way. On the bus ride over, we were talking, some of the guys that will remain nameless, and he talked about having a long career with the Giants. And then at the tail end of the career, he went to another team. And he said that's the great regret that he had in his career. And that to me said a lot, because there were times, and as you say, there were offers that I had to go to other franchises, but I never considered it, because this is where my foundation was. This is where it all began, and this is where I wanted it to end. And I have absolutely no regrets. Yes, I probably could have played another couple of years here or there, but to me, to finish the way I did, I could not have scripted it any better.
Last one for me, just to kind of wrap up your point here. What does once a Giant, always a Giant mean to you in terms of how this organization is really a $6 billion family business, right?
Yes, it's very it's very gratifying, and I can't put it into words, to be honest with you. Every time I put this ring on, it signifies something. It signifies the longevity. It signifies the stick-to-itiveness. It signifies the family of athletes and coaches. It signifies not only a sacrifice, but it also signifies a contribution that paid off in the long run, and that's something that money cannot buy.
All right, George, I'm going to put you on the spot. All right? So many great plays, so many touchdowns. We had the record for defensive player for touchdowns in NFL history. We know the touchdown return against Denver. We know about that. We know about the sack of Elway in the end zone for the safety.
A lot of big plays in there, man.
What is your favorite George Martin play?
I don't know how you remember all this stuff. I have trouble remembering it myself, but it's great that you can recall that stuff. But
Phil Derek pulling him offside on the false start.
Oh, my goodness.
Come on. You're one of my guys,
You
man.
are all phenomenal. You've always been phenomenal. But to answer the question, now go back and I relived a lot of those moments, because, yes, they do reign supreme in your career. But when you win a Super Bowl and you make a contribution to it, you know that is the creme de la creme. And having my one and only career safety in the Super Bowl, of which we won, it stands alone.
All good.
Yes,
Number
indeed.
25 on the Giants 100 list, George Martin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.